Welcome to our third lesson on stewardship. Today, we're focusing on biblical financial principles, an area where God's wisdom often contrasts sharply with our culture's assumptions. How we handle money reveals and shapes our spiritual condition more profoundly than many realize. Matthew 6:21, Jesus makes a startling statement. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Notice he doesn't say, where your heart is, your treasure follows, though that's also true. Rather, he teaches that where you place your treasure, your heart follows. How we use our money doesn't just reflect our priorities, it actually directs our affections. Think about a garden. When you plant seeds, water them, protect them from weeds, you're investing in their growth and eventual harvest. Similarly, where you plant your financial resources determines what grows in your life. Financial choices are actually spiritual decisions with eternal implications. So, what are the core biblical principles for managing money? First, recognize God as the source of all provision. Deuteronomy 8:18 reminds us, remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. When we acknowledge God as a provider rather than taking credit for our own income, it fosters gratitude and counters self-sufficiency. Second, practice faithful giving. Malachi 3:10 challenges God's people to bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. 2 Corinthians 9:7 emphasizes giving cheerfully rather than reluctantly. Tithing, giving 10%, provides a meaningful benchmark, though the New Testament emphasizes generous, sacrificial giving from the heart rather than legalistic adherence to percentages. Faithful giving demonstrates that God, not money, has our primary allegiance. Third, develop the habit of saving. Proverbs 21:20 observes, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Scripture commends prudent saving for future needs while warning against hoarding based on fear or greed. Saving demonstrates wisdom and responsibility rather than living only for immediate gratification. Fourth, exercise caution with debt. Proverbs 22:7 warns the borrower is slave to the lender. While Scripture doesn't prohibit all borrowing, it clearly cautions against debt that creates bondage, pressures relationships, or finances unnecessary consumption. Financial freedom allows greater flexibility for answering God's call. Fifth, practice contentment regardless of circumstances. In Philippians 4:11 and 12, Paul testifies, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances, whether living in plenty or in want. Contentment breaks the power of advertising and social pressure that constantly stoke discontentment to drive consumer spending. 6. Maintain financial margin. Regular giving, avoiding excessive debt, living within your means, and saving for emergencies all contribute to margin, the space between your regular expenses and your income. This margin provides protection against financial stress and freedom to respond to God's prompting for special giving or ministry opportunities. This week, take one concrete step toward aligning your finances with biblical principles. If you haven't started giving regularly, establish a giving plan. If you're struggling with debt, create a repayment strategy, seeking counsel if needed. If your spending exceeds your income, develop a simple budget that brings these into alignment. Choose one tangible action that moves you toward greater financial faithfulness. Remember, biblical financial management isn't about accumulating wealth, but about faithfully stewarding God's resources for God's purposes. The goal isn't higher net worth, but greater kingdom impact. When we manage money according to God's principles, we experience greater freedom from financial stress, increased ability to give generously, and the joy of knowing our resources are aligned with eternal values rather than temporary pleasures.